Good morning. Please stand and join me as I welcome Johnny Foreman to lead us in the invocation.
Good morning. Are you all out there? Let's try that again. Good morning. This time last year, we couldn't do this. We were all on a screen, computers. God bless. Will you pray with me? Oh God, as we prepare to watch these young men walk across the stage to receive their certificate, we want to take a moment to thank you for keeping them safe through this pandemic and guiding them to this point. And God, we ask that you allow this program to be exactly what you want it to be. Also, we ask you to bless these boys with wisdom and prepare them for the next stage. Bless them that each will be pleasing in your sight. Then, when that is accomplished, it will set each of them on a path of success. We ask this in your name. May we all say amen.
You may be seated. Gentlemen, you may be seated. You may also remove your masks and just put them in your pocket. Good morning, and welcome to our family and friends who are here with us in person, and welcome to our family and friends who are joining us virtually. We're happy to celebrate the accomplishments of our fifth graders. While there's some sadness associated with moving on and leaving lower school, there's a lot of excitement ahead as we look forward to this path leading to middle school. That's right. I want to welcome Mr. Smythe, Mr. James, Mr. Foreman, the fifth grade team, being with us here today. And I want to thank you all for your patience, flexibility, encouragement along the way as we've gone through this year. It's been challenging in many ways, but we've figured out a way to make it through. And I would say we figured out a way to make it through successfully. And it's been a fun year, it's been an exciting year, it's been a year that we've all enjoyed unexpectedly, for sure. I want to take a moment to thank our fifth grade team. They've worked really hard this year to make sure that the boys had a meaningful and memorable experience in spite of the shadow of this pandemic that we are in. And so, Mrs. Thomas, Ms. Mays, Mr. Schroeder, Mrs. Roach, Ms. Burrows, please stand so we can thank you for all you've done. Thank you so much. I want to especially recognize Mrs. Roach and Ms. Burrows, who joined us just for this year. And I've told them more than once that they've been lifesavers to us. We had to make some serious adjustments to make this year work. And they joined us for the year and jumped right in, connected with our boys, connected with our families. And it's sad to see them leave because they've really become a part of our community. Unfortunately, they were only here for this year, but hopefully, maybe in the future, our paths will cross again, and we'll have the opportunity to have you all with us and to experience your talents and gifts again. Thank you again. And one more time, boys, I'd like you to join me in thanking the people that love you and support you and have been particularly supportive to us as a school this year and have offered their encouragement along the way, your parents. So boys, please join me in giving them a hand. Thank you very much. So I grew up in a family of gospel singers, and so music was a central part of my life. Every major event in our family somehow is associated with music. And so as I went through this major life event over the last several months, there were several songs that went through my head, but there was one in particular that seemed to always stick with me, and it was one that was a source of strength and encouragement for me as I was going through the many challenges that this year presented. If my mother was here, she would insist that I sing to you. I will not sing this morning because I have a voice that a mother loves, but I will share the words with you because it certainly is relevant to what we've been experiencing this year. I've had some good days, and I've had some hills to climb. I've had some weary days and lonely nights. But when I look around and when I think things over, all of my good days outweigh the bad days. I won't complain. These words have gone over in my mind many times, and it has certainly been a source of encouragement, and it's allowed me to make the next step to make this year possible. And certainly I wouldn't have been able to do that without all the support of this community. So I wanted to share with you all some of the things that are important to me and the things that I've learned. Whenever I have a life experience, one of the things I like to do is figure out what can I learn from this? How can I come out of this, even though it might have been challenging, in a way that will allow me to get some benefit from it? As you guessed, I grew up in church, and so I spent many of my hours and years in church. And one of the things my stepfather, who was a pastor, often said was, I don't want to make you glad to see me twice, glad to see me come, and glad to see me sit down. So I'm not going to say too many things, but there are two lessons that I learned this year that I'd like to share with you boys, and I hope it's something that you will take with you as you move on in your future. The first lesson that I learned was to be grateful. There are so many things, and we sort of sit back and look around this campus, and actually if we just take a moment and stop and look around this facility, what we have access to, the resources that we were able to access to make this year possible, it's amazing. There are still children who have not been in school, and we were in school most of the year, 5 days a week. And it's a wonderful thing. And when I went through my stages of, oh, wow, we aren't going to be able to do this, we aren't going to be able to do this, I just started to think about what all we were able to do. And in a few minutes, we'll hear from the boys, and they'll talk about some of their memorable moments. And so we'll hear some of those moments, some of those things that have happened this year in spite of the challenges that we faced. So boys, there'll be times as you move on in middle school and other parts of your life where things won't go so well, and things might not always go your way. It's important that you maintain a mindset of thankfulness and gratitude, and to step back and look at all that you have and look at all that is going well, because in most cases, the good days will outweigh the bad days, and it'll keep you from complaining. Complaining puts you in a negative space, and it makes it hard to move forward. And so when you're grateful, it gives you a little more energy to move forward and to do what you need to do when times are challenging. So the one lesson that I learned this year, because I certainly had moments where I wasn't feeling particularly grateful, but then I stopped and looked around and realized, wow, we're doing some amazing things. I can do it one more day. The second lesson that I learned was that we need each other. This pandemic has forced us to separate and isolate and be separate from the people that we love. And as things have eased up, I think we are realizing, wow, how much we've missed those personal interactions. Those interactions that we previously took for granted. And that's something that I certainly am aware of this year. There's no possible way I would have been able to lead the lower school without the support of the teachers, without the support of you all as parents, and without seeing the joy and energy of you guys. And so we need each other more than we possibly can imagine. And as we move forward and think about all the things that we're doing, I think it's important for us all to remember, and for boys, as I look at your class, and I look at this diverse group of boys, there's so much that you have to offer each other. It's been fun this year. I have been on many of the boys' recess. I'm on recess duty with 5th grade for majority of the time. In the beginning of the year, we had to separate and keep in our zones, and everyone was isolated. And for the most part, they did well. But you know, as the year progressed, sometimes the boundaries got a little closer. Sometimes a ball went flying into another zone. Sometimes people wandered and realized, oh, I'm not in my zone? Oh. But we realized that you all really wanted to be with each other, and it was really tough just to be in that group of 9, 10, 11, 12 boys. And it was really fun to see when we opened up recess and allowed you all to play as a whole grade, the energy and the excitement that came from you all just being together. And I remember the one day I came out to recess and you were playing, I heard many names. It was zombie, COVID, virus tag, whatever it was. But the whole grade was out running around playing tag and just enjoying being with each other. And it reminded me how important it is for us to have each other. And before the pandemic, I'm not sure that we always recognized that, and I'm not sure that we always appreciated that. We certainly do appreciate it now. And as I've told you all before, earlier this year, as we're looking for ways to connect and be with each other, also find ways to be a positive part of each other's story. We have the power to be a negative influence or a positive influence on people. And as you look around this class, there's so many gifts and talents that you all can share. You have the opportunity to be very positive influences on each other. And you all can change a world that tends to separate based on difference and unite and unify around the differences that you share. So I encourage you all to remember how much you need each other and how much you will depend on each other moving forward. This leads me to another part of our ceremony where I recognize 2 students who are very conscious of others and who spend time helping others and don't necessarily want recognition. The first award is the Lillian Alpert Community Service Award, given to a student who demonstrates service to Gilman and the broader community. He shows his contributions in big and small ways without a desire for recognition. Each year, this student is selected by adults in the community and announced at closing exercises. This year, the recipient of the Lillian Alpert Community Service Award is Charlie Devaney. Charlie, please stand. You can leave your mask off, it's okay. You're fine, you can leave your mask off. Thanks, Charlie, congratulations. The second award is given to a student who's selected by the 5th grade. The students get together and decide who receives this award. And it's given to someone who helps others, does the right things, takes opportunities to be kind without a desire for recognition. This person is known as an unsung hero. This year, we lost a faculty member, John Lehman, who epitomized the idea of what an unsung hero is. And I'm happy to announce this year that we are renaming the Unsung Hero Award to the John Lehman Unsung Hero Award, because he represents the person who went above and beyond, always looked for ways to help, did the jobs that no one else wanted to do, took the time to ask who you are, how you were doing, wanted to do what he could to help, and never wanted any recognition. And so this year, I'm pleased to honor a young man who epitomized the spirit of John Lehman. As a selfless hero, Cole Schneider You are the first recipient of the John Lehman Unsung Hero Award. Congratulations, Cole. Truly deserved. As I rehearsed, I told myself I was going to be okay. Finally, I want to recognize the families who've had more than one boy go through the lower school. And today, their youngest son is leaving us, and we will no longer have you in the lower school. However, I'll get to see you in middle school. But we want to thank you for your time with us in middle school and the years that you've spent with us, supporting us and enjoying, and you sharing your joy with us. So please join me in recognizing the families of Sid Argawal, Cooper Armacost, Jack Checkley, Julian Hollub, Nate Krieger, Charlie Min, and Luke Morelli. Boys, if you would stand. Thanks, guys. At this time, I would like to invite Adi Gujar and Drew Keffer to present the class gift, followed by the student reflections.
The fifth grade traditionally presents the lower school with a class gift each year at the closing exercises. This gift is usually something that will help the entire lower school and that will be part of the lower school for many years. This year's gift is something everyone will see when they are outside on the playground, on the blacktop, or playing on the fields during recess. We are happy to give the lower school an outdoor clock to hang on the side of the lower school building that faces the playground.
Thanks, guys. The clock will soon be placed on the lower school, and so we invite the fifth grade boys to come back in the fall and see your gift on display. We had, the company actually sent a life-size model for us to show, but it was pretty big and a little unwieldy for us to get on stage. So we apologize we won't have a model for you to show. So student reflections.
So for 5A, Sid Agarwal. My most memorable and meaningful moment at Gilman was when I first walked into my fifth grade classroom. I met all of my different teachers, like Mrs. Thomas. They really made me feel welcome here at Gilman. I also got to meet all of my future friends in 5A. It made me realize that I am super grateful to be in person at Gilman during the tough times of the pandemic. Overall, if it were not for this experience, I would have been much more shy and nervous going into this school year. Solomon Barkus. It was very hard to pick the most meaningful experience because I've had so many during my first year at Gilman. But if I had to pick one, then I would have to pick the mentor program. This is the first time I had a chance to be in a group like that. I enjoyed being around people like me and talking with the Gilman Black alumni. It made me feel like I mattered, and I was grateful that these people took time out of their day to talk with me. Mac Bose. My most memorable experience at Gilman was my first day of in-person school. I was very nervous because I had just moved to Baltimore from Orlando that summer. I was afraid of what my classmates would think of me, but when I got there, everyone was incredibly friendly. My new friends and I joked around during lunch, and that replaced my nervousness with happiness and joy. Osai Coleman. The most meaningful experience I have had at Gilman was when I first started. Everyone was happy to see me. I fit in very quickly, and I felt as if I had just joined a big family. I arrived in 4th grade and everyone already knew each other, but they still welcomed me. Drew Keffer. The most meaningful experience I had at Gilman was probably my first pep rally. I learned a lot about the traditions, and my classmates were there to help. This event was intriguing to me in every way. It was important to me because this was the beginning of my love for Gilman. Jack Labalarte. My most memorable moment was when I was in Prep 1, which was my first year at Gilman. We had to do a drawing that represented predators and prey. I was obsessed with cheetahs at the time, so I drew a cheetah as the prey and a lion as the predator. When I drew the cheetah, I remember it was so good that the teacher told me that she would keep it as an example for drawings in the future. This experience taught me that I was a good artist, and I continue to draw to this day. I remember my drawing being pretty good, but I don't even know anymore. It could be terrible as far as I know, but we'll really never know for sure. Robel Lemma. My most memorable moment was during 3rd grade when I climbed the Alpine Tower. This taught me and my friends a lesson on teamwork because we helped each other climb up difficult parts of the wooden tower. It was also a bonding experience with some of my classmates as we all shared laughs together. This was an important moment during my time at Gilman. Menelik Means. The most meaningful experience I had at Gilman was when we went to St. Mary's City in 4th grade. It was a wonderful trip with a lot of historic buildings and houses. My favorite part was when we split into groups and my group got to see so many artifacts from a long time ago. This is my favorite experience because it expanded my knowledge of St. Mary's and it was the longest field trip I had ever been on. Charlie Min. My most meaningful experience was when I first started at Gilman in 1st grade because I immediately felt welcome and like it was the start of an amazing adventure.
Good morning. 5B. Charlie Devaney. This year I was going to recess, thinking about the class I had just left and how confused I was. I told Will Michael what I was confused about, and he gave up some of his own time to make sure that I knew what I needed to know. That made me feel like I can always ask a question when I'm confused and I don't have to be scared to ask. Ihan Jalisi. The most memorable moment of my experience with Gilman Lower School was before I was even in Gilman. It was the summer of 2018. Gilman has a program called Summer Buddies. It is for new students to pair up with a person in their grade who has been at Gilman, so the student would have a friend when school started. My summer buddy was Max B. Back then, I was a really shy kid. Max helped me come out of my shell. Max helped me feel comfortable at Gilman, and from this experience, it helped me be more social. Thanks, Max. Ian Cuddy. I remember when we were at Ihan's birthday party and we were playing football. Even though we didn't really follow the rules, we grew as peers and fellow students. It didn't matter if one of us won or lost, we were still having fun. I learned that winning isn't everything and that what matters is that we have fun together. Tyler Lincolnhoker. My memorable moment was on my shadow day in 1st grade. When it came time for recess, I knew almost no one, except for maybe 3 people from outside of school. When I went outside, Dylan came over and we talked. That was really nice because he made me feel comfortable. Later, he went to the playground and invited me over. Then he, some other people, and I all played tag. This was a really nice experience because it helped me feel welcome at Gilman. Will Michael. The most memorable thing I did in the lower school was participating in the Battle of the Books. I had fun preparing, and I liked representing Gilman in a friendly competition that was about books. The competition was both exciting and thrilling. I couldn't be happier about how it turned out. Even though we didn't come in 1st place, I still had fun with my friends. Silas O'Hanlon. I feel one of my most memorable moments in Gilman was in 1st grade with my big buddy. My big buddy would always make me laugh and was my hero. I always looked up to him, and I still do. He taught me lessons, and I still think about him on the last day of school, Spirit Day, and how much I looked up to him. I remember when we would play tag with my friends and their big buddies. He helped me grow into who I am today through his kindness. Jack O'Sullivan. My most memorable moment in the lower school was when I was in 3rd grade and I finally got to climb the Alpine Tower. This was my most memorable moment because I had been looking forward to it ever since kindergarten. I also remember right when I was about to climb it, I was so scared. But then I told myself that I could do it, and I did it. I climbed to the top. This showed me that I could do anything I put my mind to. Cash Polikoff. My most memorable moment was actually not at Gilman. It was at St. Mary's City, and we were on the 4th grade field trip. My favorite part was when Julian Holub, Paul Furr, and I stayed in the same room together. This was very fun because over that short span of time, I was able to create a very strong bond with those 2 guys, and now I am proud to call them 2 of my best friends. Asad Zahir. My most memorable part of Gilman Lower School is Mrs. Anders. I remember she used to play Escape the Classroom with us. We did a lot of fun math with her. We also used to play a lot of cahoots. I always nicknamed myself Math Emergency because I really liked math with her, and I felt like it was an emergency to get all of the answers on the Kahoot correct. I had Mrs. Anders for math and language arts, so I was really lucky to have her twice.
Five C, Jack Britton. My most memorable moment was when I was with Drew and I scraped my knee and he walked me to the nurse. First, he volunteered to, and while we were walking, he made jokes to make me feel better. It's usually awkward to walk to the nurse, but Drew made it much better. Carson Dodge. My most memorable moment was our 1st grade trip to Oriole Park at Camden Yards. We got a tour of the field, the dugout, and everything else. I liked it because we were the only ones there. Paul Furr. My most memorable moment is how awesome the teachers are in their own ways, from escape rooms to always being excited and talking in a loud voice. Jaden Green. My most memorable moment was the St. Mary's field trip. I remember learning a lot and having a great time with my friends. I saw famous buildings, and the bus trip was fun. There was a performance about how the colonists and the Native Americans communicated, which was really interesting. This is a trip I would love to do again. Peyton Johnson. My most memorable moment was in 1st or 2nd grade with Luke Morelli. It was the day he told me that he was a Steelers fan. I say this because I did not feel nervous or lonely anymore. And Luke and I have had a good friendship that started with that one remark. Nate Krieger. My most memorable moment was in 2nd grade. Mrs. Alexander assigned an art project where we created birch trees. I really enjoyed that project. And at the end, Mrs. Alexander chose my birch tree for the cover of the Grand Friends Day program. I felt honored and proud that my artwork was chosen. Mrs. Alexander's encouragement has stayed with me to this day. I still like to create art and share it with others. Luke Lander. My most memorable moment was the historic St. Mary's field trip. I like it because it was a sleepover. I stayed in a hotel room with Will and Audie, and we ate Domino's pizza, which was delicious, and I stayed up late eating popcorn and ice cream while watching football. I loved it. Luke Morelli. My most memorable moment was when we went to St. Mary's because it was our only overnight field trip, and I had a great time staying in a hotel, playing cards, and learning about the original buildings. The artifacts were really cool, too. Simon Tovar. My most memorable moment was earning a 92 on the dissenter essay. I chose this because at my previous school, I did not get the support on how to write better, and I would not have done that well. I am so happy to be at Gilman, and I'm looking forward to study hall in 6th grade and trying out for sports. Ronan Wren. My most memorable moment was the first day of 1st grade. I had just moved from Atlanta, and I was dreading this day. Everything in Baltimore was so different than Atlanta, and I didn't know anyone. I got to 1A, and Mrs. James introduced me to the class. I was looking at all the faces I had never seen before and just wanted the day to be over. At recess, I was sitting by myself, and a classmate came over and asked, "Do you want to play football with us?" I said yes, and had so much fun. This was just a simple act of kindness, but to me, it was the first moment I felt like I belonged.
"5D, Cooper Armacost. My most memorable moment from Gilman Lower School was a day of discovery because I had so much fun. I climbed not too high on the tower, but I thought it was awesome. I loved that day and all of lower school in general, including 5th grade. The reason that day was so special was because I got to learn about the Lewis and Clark expedition, and I had fun doing it. Also, my mom was helping on the tower, so I was able to see her during the day and eat lunch with her. That was my most memorable moment of lower school. Max Baum. My favorite memory of lower school was in 3rd grade on the day of the 5th grade versus faculty basketball game. We got to make signs for the 5th grade or faculty. It was fun seeing who we were cheering for. My friends and I started chants and started cheering whenever our team scored. It was a very fun day, and I'll remember that from my Gilman experience. Tarum Betagawa. My most memorable experience at Gilman was going to school during COVID-19. I was nervous how school would go during the pandemic, but the teachers at Gilman were able to figure out how to make school work while still being safe, and how Gilman slowly started to open things back up to the students, like the playground. I'm also glad that I'm going to Gilman during COVID. Adi Gujar. My most memorable moment in lower school was during the readathon when I was in 1st grade, when we helped the people at the Baltimore Hunger Project, and after that, I was inspired to help more. I didn't want anyone to go hungry, so on my birthday, I went and helped out at the BHP headquarters with a bunch of volunteers. I never wanted anyone to go hungry, and the readathon and Mr. X's fiery talk inspired me to start helping. Julian Holub. My most memorable moment was Pioneer Day. It was the first time I researched something and then got to go do it at school. The games were the best part, especially the races. I will never forget my dad pulling me in some of those races because he wanted to win. Trip Lawrence. My favorite memory was when JP came to lower school. I love this because he was my first brother, and it was cool introducing a new greyhound. Personally, I was nervous for him, but he ended up loving Gilman. George Fakis. My memorable moment was in 1st grade on Pioneer Day. I had a violin lesson 2 days before, and I told my homeroom teacher, Mrs. James, that I've been working on the railroad on the violin. She told Mrs. Simon, and Mrs. Simon set me up to play with Mr. Smythe. I had started playing the violin a few months ago, and I wasn't afraid to try and play. It felt special then, and afterwards, my family was proud of me. That helped me gain the confidence in public speaking, performing. I was very proud and happy with myself. Ashton Stein. The most memorable experience I've had ever at Gilman was when I was virtual for the whole school year. I discovered a lot about myself and responsibilities. It was important to me because it let me be responsible for a lot of things. For example, some responsibilities were showing up at school when nobody was there to remind you, getting your work done ahead of time, and having the mental and psychological fortitude for being isolated for over a year. I think that is an experience this experience shaped who I will be. Dylan Wyman. My most memorable moment of lower school was in 4th grade when we took our trip to St. Mary's. This was the most memorable because it taught me that I could be independent. I will also remember this because it was the first time I spent the night away from my home without my parents.
"5E, Will Abrams. My favorite memory was when we tracked and learned about the Iditarod in 3rd grade. Learning about Alaska was cool because I never thought it would be that big of a state. Though the racer I tracked lost, I still had so much fun learning about Alaska and the race dogs. William Barignano. One memorable moment for me in 5th grade was actually in 5th grade. This was actually a collection of similar moments. During the COVID pandemic, recesses were split up by class. Of course, this was miserable. But even in those small pods, we were able to have fun. But the true great moment was when they deemed it safe to put the boundaries down. I still remember the day when the lines were put down. This marked the beginning of the end of COVID. Jack Checkley. The most memorable moment that I had is the time I've been in school split over multiple years. It is the time I've spent with my best friend, Tyler. He's very kind and funny, and I've known him for about 2 years now. This year, I really bonded with him and had such a great time with him almost every day after school. Although this might not be a specific moment, it is the main thing that pops in my mind when I think of school. Roman Chuhach. The most meaningful experience I've had at Gilman was in 3rd grade when my homeroom teacher noticed that some of the people rushed through their homework or didn't do it. She asked the class why this was happening, and people said it was because they had sports. She knew even if you had to play sports, you could still do your homework by having a homework plan. She told us what a good homework plan was. Since then, it's been easier to turn in my homework on time and still do my best. Sebastian Ocholsky. One of my favorite experiences at Gilman was when I was in 4th grade and went to St. Mary's. I also liked it because it was a fun field trip. Another thing that made it fun was that it was a sleepaway trip. I liked taking sleepaway trips because it was a different experience and you got the most out of the trip. It was also fun because I felt more free and more like an adult. Me and my roomies were able to do almost anything we wanted. Ray Yang. The most meaningful experience I ever had at Gilman was doing the Wax Museum project in 3rd grade. Before that project, I had never written a long biography, memorized an entire speech, or given a speech in front of so many people. The project helped my writing skills, memorization skills, and my public speaking skills. On the day of the Wax Museum presentation, my throat was sore from repeating the same speech over and over again. The entire experience was rewarding and taught me many skills that I've benefited from and will continue to benefit from. Mark Zagranichny. The best experience I've had at Gilman is the camping trip. It is usually hosted by Taran's dad. During the trip, you bring a tent and sometimes other stuff. You get to hang out with friends. During the nighttime, we sit around a campfire and tell stories and have a great time. Cole Schneider. A meaningful moment that I remember at Gilman was in D&W with Mr. Lehman telling us stories. The story was different than usual. The stories were for our entertainment while we worked, but the story he was telling was a life lesson story and gave a bunch of tips for our future. This was a very meaningful and memorable moment I remember from a time at Gilman School. I was in 3rd grade, so it didn't seem as important as it does now. Thank you.
Thanks to all the 5th grade team. I love those reflections. It's always nice to hear what your memories are, fellas. Although, I can't remember, it was either Drew or Charlie who used the word intriguing for the pep rally. It's a good choice of words. And I can't help but wonder what the condition of the motel or the hotel in St. Mary's City is at this point. Also, I've wondered about that cleaning bill I got that was enormous. I'm kidding. There wasn't a cleaning bill, but I do wonder about the condition of the hotel there. So I want to, just like Mr. Lawson did at the outset, just echo his words of welcome and thanks to everybody for being here. It's I always say it's nice to see people. It's really nice to see people on campus and here, and it's a real pleasure that we've been able to have this ceremony in person on campus, and so it's a thrill to welcome all of you, and thank you also to echo something Armand said a little while ago. Just thank you to everybody for your flexibility, guys, families, for your flexibility and adaptability over the course of this year, even up to the last minute where we had to reschedule this ceremony because of weather. And I will admit I was a little bit relieved when yesterday, right around 8:30, it started raining on campus. So thank you again for your flexibility. It's nice to be outside. And then finally, also echoing what Mr. Lawson said earlier, just a thanks to the 5th grade team and all of the lower school teachers, many of which are over here with us today for your efforts over the course of this school year. It's been a monumental task to make school happen this year, and the credit goes to all of you for doing so. So thank you. And then finally, guys, thanks for the clock. Also, like a lot of us, I spend a lot of time walking around campus and often don't know what time it is. And I had a lot of recess duty also this year with first grade out on the field, and often didn't know what time it was. And so it's going to be really nice to have that resource for us. So thank you very much for that generosity, and it's a very thoughtful gift as well. So part of the tradition of these closing exercises, we have this one this morning for lower school and 5th grade, and then at 2 o'clock this afternoon, we'll celebrate the 8th graders who are moving on from middle school to upper school. Then tonight we have our baccalaureate service for the seniors, the graduating class of 2021, and then tomorrow morning we'll be back here for our Founders Day graduation ceremony. We also threw in a prom last night, which was right over by the lower school under the tents. So guys, thanks also for letting us use your tent for the prom. But it's a busy time, and part of our tradition is to stop and to pay tribute to some faculty members, some particular faculty members who receive awards for different parts of school life and different ways we'd like to recognize them. So we want to take a moment here to recognize some lower school teachers for various awards. And the first one is the Gilman Advisor Award. It was established in September of 1998 by Mr. and Mrs. Stephen T. Scott. And the award is given to a member of the faculty who excels in the area of counseling and advising. And in the lower school this year, it gives me great pleasure to give the Gilman Advisor Award for Mr. and Mrs. Stephen T. Scott to Jennifer Schmerling. Ms. Schmerling, come on up. Is she here? She might not be here. Okay, I'm seeing that she's not here. So thanks for the round of applause for Ms. Schmerling, excuse me. And we'll move on to the next award. So the Edward K. Dunn Family Faculty Award was established by the family of Edward K. Dunn, class of 1918. So guys, you are the class of 2028. This man was the class of 1918, and he served on the Gilman Board of Trustees for 54 years. He was clearly a loyal and devoted alumnus of Gilman, and he was the first alum to serve as the president of the Board of Trustees. And this award's given to a member of the Gilman faculty who's made an exceptional contribution to the development of character of students. And this year, I'm pleased to present the Edward K. Dunn Family Faculty Award to Melissa Dah. Ms. Dah, congratulations. Thanks, Ms. Dah. This award will not be a surprise to the recipient because of the timing, you'll understand, but every year we award the Reapy Family Sabbatical, which was established to reward consistent excellence in teaching and to promote the continuing educational development of the faculty. And the fund allows each year one faculty member to take a semester sabbatical at full pay, plus a stipend for travel and related expenses. And because of COVID, we awarded the Reapy sabbatical last year for this current school year, but we couldn't take the sabbatical because of COVID. And so I wanted to announce and to recognize last year's recipient for this year of the Reapy Family Sabbatical to a lower school teacher, Isabel Georges. Madame? All right, so guys, this is a big one, okay? So also every year, we like to award the Edward T. Russell Chair, and it's Gilman's first endowed faculty chair. It was established in 1979 in memory of Edward T. Russell, one of the school's most devoted teachers. He served, here's another great tenure. He served on the Gilman faculty from 1915 until 1963. And this fund was established by alumni and friends and family, relatives of Mr. Russell, and his wife, Mrs. Florence Campbell Russell, who also shared her husband's love of Gilman. And the award is presented to an experienced member of the Gilman faculty who is especially devoted to the school. And this year, I'm very honored to present the Russell Chair to lower school teacher, Kelly Crawford. Ms. Crawford. Congratulations, Ms. Crawford, and to all of the faculty award winners. So, Ronan, you probably know what I'm going to say next, and that's, what a day. Boys, now we get to celebrate you, and we'll get to the moment where you receive your certificates, walk across the stage, and we all get to applaud your accomplishment. But before we do that, just a couple of remarks to the class of 2028. I like to spend these times, like we'll do this afternoon and tomorrow as well, looking backward to look ahead. Looking back to look ahead. And think about, looking backward, where you were. Whether you started Gilman in kindergarten or not. Let's think back to kindergarten. Physically, how much you've grown. You were little guys back then. You probably don't remember that or realize that, but think back to the size of the furniture in your kindergarten classroom. Now I'm seeing some smiles. If you sat in those chairs now, your knees would hit your chin. Right? So you've physically grown. You've intellectually grown. A lot of you probably could not read in kindergarten. I'm assuming you can read now. Right? But a lot of you probably could not read in kindergarten. It's amazing how much intellectual growth happens over the course of these 5 or 6 years. And even as you've grown bigger, both physically, emotionally, psychologically, intellectually, even as you've grown, your world has also grown. Back when you were younger guys in the lower school or wherever you were, it would have taken you hours just to get to the arena. And now you can do that as a PE class and not take up the entire period. So the world of the Gilman campus has expanded dramatically. And for this group, and only this group, you've also taken over part of the upper school for the year and being in the Lumen Center. So your world, you've moved outside the lower school building in ways that no other 5th grade class has done before you. Pretty remarkable. So your world has expanded. And so this moment represents a significant point in your journey, in your growth and development. And what's really neat about this ceremony, I know I speak on behalf of all of these people out here who love you more than you could imagine, that what's so exciting about it is that as much as you've grown now, there's so much more great stuff ahead. There's so much more great growth and development for you ahead. So what you can read now pales in comparison to what you'll be reading 4 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So there's remarkable growth that we can celebrate at this point along the way in your journey. And it's so exciting for all of us to know how much lies ahead for you. And so what lies ahead for you is the middle school, clearly. Looking back to look ahead, I'd also like to offer, and this will build on themes that you've heard before, and certainly you've heard from me, you've heard from Mr. Lawson earlier. We've learned a lot over this last year. Right? COVID has taught us a lot. It's taught us about adaptability. And more importantly, and you've heard me talk about this before, guys, more importantly, in my mind anyway, it's taught us how important it is to take care of ourselves and to look after each other. In fact, it's taught us the relationship between those two things. In a lot of ways, we have to look after ourselves so that we can take care of each other. We have to take care of ourselves so that we can look after each other. Sometimes we have to make some sacrifices in order to promote the common good. And that's a lesson that maybe COVID has helped to emphasize or to hammer home, but it applies all over life. And it will continue to apply to you as you move through the middle school and beyond. So what we hope for you as you look at this day and look back and now look ahead, what we hope for you is that you continue to take care of yourselves, you continue to develop yourselves, you continue to be your best self, so that you can use those strengths and gifts to make the world the best version of itself. If you can do that, if we can help you to do that, then the world's going to be a much better place. And what an awesome gift that would be from all of you. So, gentlemen of the class of 2028, congratulations on reaching this point in your journey. We're so excited for what lies ahead. And now it is time to award you with your certificates. Congratulations, gentlemen. Well done, guys.
William James Abrams. Sid Agarwal. Cooper James Armacost. William Bargnano. Solomon Barkas. Max Charles Baum. Tarn Narashima Bergauda. McDonald Arun Bose. Jackson Keegan Britton. John Patrick Checkley. Roman Milan Chuhach. Osai Guillermo Coleman. Charles Thomas Devaney, Jr. Carson James Dodge. Paul David Furr. Jaden Austin Green. Adi Sachin Gujar. Julian Alterberger Hollab. Ihan Taha Farouk Jalisi. Peyton Robert Johnson. Andrew Joseph Keffer. Nathaniel Dalton Krieger. Ian Cuddy. Michael John Lavalarte Jr. Luke Edward Lander. Robert Scherer Lawrence III. Rubal Hailu Lema. Tyler Jinyi Lincolnhoker. Manelik Thomas Means. William Jeffrey Michael. Charles Jungi Min. Luke Byard Morelli. Sebastian Antoni Ocholsky. Silas Archer Carp O'Hanlon. John Dilks O'Sullivan. Cash Anthony Polikoff. Cole Jacob Schneider. George Frangiskos Sifakis. Ashton Baylor Stein. Simon Charles Tovar. Dylan Tyler Weinman. Thomas Ronan Wren. Ray Zray Yang. Mark Adam Zagranichny. Assad Zahir.
Please join me in congratulating the class of 2028. Congrats, boys. Unfortunately, Mrs. Alexander is not able to join us this morning, but it's an interesting turn of events in that I will be head of the middle school next year. And so it's appropriate for me to say a few things to you all as we all move from lower school to middle school. And as Mr. Smythe said, as we look back to look ahead, when I first came to the lower school, you all were third graders, and probably don't remember that so much, but it's amazing now that you're fifth graders and that we're now at this stage where we're moving on to middle school. Middle school is going to be a time when there are lots of new changes. I'm really looking forward to seeing how much you all will change over the summer, because you've grown already, but it'll be amazing how much just 3 months will change you all. And next year, there'll be some new things that are unaware and unfamiliar to you, but like you did in lower school, you'll become familiar, you'll get adjusted, and we'll enjoy our time together. I'm really looking forward to this unique moment in our history that I get to follow you all from lower school to middle school. So congratulations again, and I look forward to seeing you again next year. With that, I thank you all for joining us and appreciate all that's happened to bring us to this day. I had envisioned perhaps that cicadas or other things might be joining us, and I'm glad to see the sun coming out and that we've been able to have this ceremony and to really celebrate a year that's been full of challenges, but the good days have far outweighed the bad days, and I'm really excited moving forward. So thank you all, and I want to invite Mr. Foreman to lead us in a benediction.
Looking back to look forward. Jenny, it was good to see you out there, Ms. Eichelhart. special connection with Jenny. A lot of people don't know this. I was a middle school science teacher some years ago. When Jenny came to interview, she was sitting in my class to observe. And we were talking about anatomy and physiology and how the knee is constructed, so forth and so on. And I thought I did a pretty good job until she introduced herself and that she was a registered nurse and had gone through all of this subject matter. And I said, oh my God, I hope I said it right. I taught these kids. But then Jenny, it was really good to see you. Also see Roger Wren, the Wren family. He and I spent some time together in public school, so Roger's good to see you. I have one other thing to say, and it's coming to my mind, and I think I need to say this. Armand, I think you followed in your stepdad's footsteps, because there were points I was about to say amen, but I shut up. As an old deacon, I almost got it. But great to see your growth, too. A lot of you don't know, I interviewed Armand some years ago when he came in to be the middle school counselor, and he taught down at the Landon School, and we were able to urge him to come up here, not to travel down 95. But it's great to see your growth as well, and see you that you're going to be moving on to the middle school where I spent some years. And you guys are looking at me as if, yes, I've been here that long. I've been interviewed all three of these guys, so. Sugar and spice. Okay. Looking back to look forward. I failed to do something in the beginning, and if I had opened up the program, I would have known that. And just thinking about John Lehman, and then I had to look back and see Mr. Hilliard, who also filled that spot as one of our industrial arts teachers. And then I remembered Mrs. Hilliard, Wilma's prayer. Looking back to look forward. So the benediction, other than what I had prepared, I think it's appropriate to the benediction to be for these young men as they move on, to read Wilma's prayer as the benediction. So, young men, families, would you mind standing for the benediction? And here is Wilma's prayer. As we come to school each day, let us not forget to pray to God who kept us through the night and woke us with the morning light. Help us, Lord, to love Thee more than we have ever loved before. In all we do and all we say, to grow more loving every day. Amen.
Please remain standing as the boys recess, and you may join them in the far field once they are all dismissed. you go join your sons.